So, OpenAI are in the news again, and it's not for something great this time. OpenAI are essentially calling for DeepSeek to be banned as they believe that those are PRC produced models. Essentially, the models that are controlled, owned, and operated by China. Now, in this article that we do see here, where it says OpenAI calls DeepSeek state controlled, calls for ban on PRC produced models. And this was something that actually had the Twitter sphere in a disarray due to the fact that many people believe that OpenAI are simply trying to stifle out the competition. You can see here that it says in a new policy proposal, OpenAI describes Chinese AI lab DeepSeek as state subsidized and state controlled and recommend that United States government consider banning models from the outfit and similar PRC supported operations. DeepSeek being state controlled isn't the first time we've heard this allegation, as there have been many other claims to this, which I will discuss later on this video. But OpenAI saying this is truly interesting considering their position to DeepSeek, basically essentially being their rival, because they think that DeepSeek is sending data back to China. So it says the proposal is a submission for the Trump administration's AI Action Plan initiative that claims that DeepSeek model rules, including the R1 reasoning model, are insecure because DeepSeek faces requirements under Chinese law to comply with demands for user data. And banning the use of PRC produced models in all countries considered Tier 1 under the Biden administration's export rule would prevent privacy and security risks, is what OpenAI is saying, including the risk of IP theft. Now, if you aren't familiar with Trump's AI Action Plan initiative, this is essentially something that has four things. Number one is its regulatory framework, where it basically aims to prevent overly burdensome regulations that could hinder innovation in the AI sector. And companies like OpenAI are actually proposing a regulatory strategy that ensures the freedom of innovation, and they emphasize the voluntary partnership between the federal government and the private sector in the AI Action Plan. They also talk about export controls, basically limiting China's access to advanced AI and semiconductor technologies, basically trying to ensure America's lead while promoting global adoption of American AI systems. And there is also IP and copyright, where they're basically looking at a balanced framework for copyright laws, and there is investment and infrastructure where companies are addressing the energy needs for their future. So AI Action Plan is something that is huge, and of course it's going to shape the future of AI landscape, and OpenAI within that AI Action Plan are suggesting that models like DeepSeek should be banned. Now, of course, this is debatable because I came across a few articles where it says different things. Like in this article, it talks about how DeepSeek open models don't contain mechanism that would allow the Chinese government to siphon user data, since companies including Microsoft, Perplexity, and Amazon host them on their infrastructure. So essentially what they mean by this is that the fact that if you have an open model, what these companies like Microsoft, Perplexity, and Amazon will do is they will host them on their server and serve them to you and me, so we can use them. And essentially we just use Microsoft for inference, considering we don't have home setup where we can host models ourselves. And if you do have an open model, open models can't really send data back, but later you'll see that there are some other information that basically goes against this. Now, of course, if you remember, OpenAI actually accused DeepSeek of the distillation allegations, which is where you distill knowledge from a larger model into a smaller model. Basically what they're stating that DeepSeek did was they actually trained DeepSeek through the knowledge of GPT-o1 and GPT-o3. And this is how DeepSeek is so good, and the distillation is an actual thing that they use. Then this is definitely something that you know is possible. And it's not like China doesn't have a history of copying Western things and making them cheaper at a fraction of cost. Now the elephant in the room is that whether or not OpenAI has some grounds to stand on. And I think this one is 50-50. But the only problem is that OpenAI have some clear incentive to reduce any kind of competition from the competing companies, especially DeepSeek. You have to understand that DeepSeek at the time when it was really popular managed to surpass ChatGPT on the App Store. Now I want to talk about a similar situation where the US lawmakers have actually tried to ban DeepSeek from the government devices, because they were essentially worried about this. And you can see right here that basically a third party analysis did find that DeepSeek chatbot app can capture log information and share it with the Chinese largest state-owned mobile firm. So there was this article where it said DeepSeek coding has the ability to transfer user data directly to the Chinese government. And this is where I'm talking about the actual website that you can use DeepSeek. So it says right here that DeepSeek, the explosive new AI tool that took the world by storm, has code hidden in its programming. Experts told the ABC News that this was the reason why DeepSeek was actually banned in some states on certain devices due to this potentially surprising security threat. So this is where you have a situation where there is a potential for this to be banned on government devices, but I don't know if it's going to be banned entirely. And when looking at this situation, whether or not DeepSeek will be banned completely, we can look at a similar situation like TikTok. So basically there was this situation where TikTok, which is created by the parent company ByteDance, you can see that this was something that people were worried about in terms of security issue. So there have been allegations that CCP assessed TikTok data, particularly through a former ByteDance employee, and he actually claimed that TikTok allowed backdoor access to monitor Hong Kong protests. But TikTok maintained that it didn't provide access to Chinese government and would not do so if asked. So this was pretty crazy because the former employee did say that they did, and essentially we can see here that this was something super fascinating because they said that the Chinese Communist Party assessed the data of TikTok users on a broad scale and for political purposes. So overall, since this is now being closely guarded, I do wonder if DeepSeek is going to change or slow down. But definitely the Chinese government are probably working with them and keeping an eye on them.